Hello there again, and welcome back to online plant and animal diseases class. And we're reaching the last couple sections here of the course, and covering here in Unit 16, we're going to talk about parasitology or parasite problems. So let's jump into several of these topics here. Some general production information or production loss information, economic stuff, and kind of a little classification introduction here to parasitology. We think in terms of lost production due to parasites in the U.S. is $10 to $12 billion. And if that number shocks you, that's because most of us generally vastly underestimate the parasite risks that our animals have out there. Most of our economic losses are in the young stock that you have out there on the farm. So can we eradicate it completely? Right now we think absolutely not. So it has to be controlled somehow pretty effectively. Two types of parasites that we're going to be talking about. Ectoparasites, which are parasite problems that live on the exterior of the body, and endoparasites, which are interior body problems. So when we look at damage caused by parasites, the first one we talk about ectoparasites is mostly damaging and irritating the skin. They may create all kinds of problems, whether it's nervousness or excitement or restlessness or lots of extra walking around or even running around trying to get away from flies and things of that nature. The other problem that can develop is transmission of infectious organisms. Think like West Nile disease in horses, for example, or sucking blood, think flies, that may cause restlessness with cattle. Endoparasites then are generally feed absorbers. They're kind of robbers of valuable nutrients from the host animal. They may suck blood and lymph from the host out of there and cause some kind of internal bleeding or even what's not listed here, sometimes more damaging blockages in different organs throughout the body. Obstructions can include bile ducts, intestines, circulatory system, things of that nature. And obviously these, as we cause damage like that, then you can have infectious organisms or bacteria that take over and cause problems related to that. So, there wasn't maybe a pathway for a bacterial problem to develop an infection prior to that, but the parasites cause just enough damage that then there's a bacterial infection that develops. And they can actually do some mass migration to major organs, whether it's liver, lungs, abdominal cavity, the chest, or the blood vessels. Very, very nasty type problems. Symptoms of endoparasites and even ectoparasites sometimes. Poor appetite, some dehydration, if the parasite problem tends to be close to a water source, unthriftiness, which generally means a not pretty looking animal, diarrhea of some kind, weight loss, hair coat problems, slow gainers, emaciation, and simple weakness. So how do we diagnose parasitism or parasite infections? And the best way to look for endoparasites is to check fecal samples for parasite eggs. So you basically go out and you can take a number of different ways, but get a fecal sample, and then we take that fecal sample and we can smear it across a microscope slide and check through the microscope. The problem with that is sometimes we can get times that there are false negatives. Maybe we happen to pick a pile that wasn't infected with something like that. So sometimes that leads to false negatives. The other way is what we call the flotation method, which will take again that fecal sample and then kind of irrigate it with a solution that will help float the eggs to the top of the fecal sample using this. It's a kind of a salt-based, saline-based solution, and basically you can then just dab the microscope slide on top of the beaker or test tube that you're doing this with and kind of catch the eggs that'll float to the top on the parasite slide, put them on the microscope again, examine and check for parasite eggs. That's really the most accurate method of diagnosis that you'll find. The life cycles that you may see with parasites, it's limited oftentimes outside of the animal. Sometimes you see it has to go through a host in order to complete its life cycle. Ectoparasites that penetrate the body can cause pretty severe tissue damage, like grubs and things like that. Endoparasites ingested in the stomach, they can hatch and mature, so we can find adults that remain in the stomach the entire life, or eggs that will pass out in the feces and then go through the rest of its life cycle and have to get introduced into the digestive system. Then sometimes we have an intermediate host that's required, like its life cycle. Some that are ingested into hosts, like we said earlier, can migrate from the digestive tract to another part, like ascaris worms or lungworms, and some require assistance from that intermediate host, with regard to liver flukes or lungworms. Control measures, number one is proper nutrition. Maintain high quality nutritional status of your animals and keep your pasture of high quality. If your pasture is of good quality, the animals will be less likely to pick real close to the soil line, which is where most often parasite eggs reside. Prevent overstocking in your pastures, because that not only will cause your animals to overgraze an area, it will also increase your parasite load. So make sure that you don't overstock your pastures. Rotate your pastures. Keep from overgrazing, like we said, that one area, and prevent mixed grazing. Don't allow, if you can avoid it, older and younger animals to graze on the same. Avoid it, but obviously, if you talk about cow-calf situations, then that's not a possibility. Keep your lot dry and clean, and maintain good drainage. Clean your feed bunks. Wash things down occasionally. In a pig barn, make sure that we wash the facilities down regularly. That will keep parasite problems under control. Let's look at endoparasites first, and some examples here are tapeworms, roundworms, flukes, flatworms. There's a number of different ones here. But things to consider before we start going and treating these things is pregnancy status. Some of the dewormers that we may use, make sure that you turn the box over or turn the bottle around and look at the label, because some are labeled do not use in pregnant animals, meaning that they're going to cause abortions. So make sure that you read the label carefully, or ask your veterinarian for assistance and clarification on which product to use. Sometimes we don't want to deworm if we have other illness or medication problems going on, because you could actually cause the onset of more particular and more nasty problems as well, kind of compounding the parasite stress that we have going on. And again, think of the method of drug administration that works best for the animal and works best for you, the producer. We can go feed grade, we can go pour on, we can go injectable, any of the three. Rotate dewormers so that you have different modes of action on your deworming cycle, and then keep on a schedule, whether it's deworming on a quarterly basis, or keep in mind that the life cycle of the parasites, so you're trying to break that life cycle down. Ectoparasites, we're primarily talking about flies, lice, ticks, mites, etc. And most of this is just simple tissue damage on the skin or constant irritation, biting insects and things of that nature. So, think about your control measures carefully. Think sanitation, because oftentimes poor sanitation, lots of manure lying around, helps lead to more of these types of problems. Be careful with drug reactions, withdrawal times, and things of that nature. Some take-home messages here, and I know this is a really quick, just 10-minute little slideshow. Again, parasite problems are often risky because we don't know that they're around. Obviously, with flies, horn flies, horse flies, face flies, we see them regularly. Ticks and stuff like that, we see them regularly, but probably the more economically damaging ones are the endoparasites that you can't see and maybe don't detect. So make sure that you are aware of the parasite risk that you do have. Make regular deworming, make a schedule and stick to it. Pick products that work for you and stick to them. And then evaluate risk factors on your farm, like pasture, stocking rates, pasture density, quality of grasses, etc. So hopefully that helps here with Unit 16, second to last slideshow in this class. Hopefully this lecture helps you prepare for your assessment. Good luck.